Welcome to our latest segment on how things work, and in today's episode we are talking wings, spoilers, downforce and drag. In the world of aerodynamics there are two basic forces at play on a vehicle, drag and lift. We know that drag is the force that works against the motion of a car, while lift is the force that works on the car itself. Now lift is either positive and trying to pick up the vehicle, or negative and creating downforce. Air itself behaves exactly the same way as a fluid, and in fact is governed by the scientific laws of fluid dynamics. As a result, when we move an object through the air, especially at speed, we encounter the frictional forces that the air exacts on the surfaces, which causes drag. And drag is one of the most important issues designers consider, not only when profiling the shape of the car, but also in determining what size engines to use to overcome the frictional forces at high speed. This is because frictional forces increase with the velocity squared, or exponentially to put it in another way, and are also a function of the frontal area of the vehicle. This means that if we want to go faster, we have to do two things. We have to make our car as slippery as possible, that is, have a low drag coefficient, and we have to increase our engine power dramatically. To give you an example, a car that requires 30 kilowatts to travel at 80 kilometers an hour would now require 120 kilowatts to drive at 160 kilometers an hour. That's 4 times the power simply to double the speed. We've all heard the term drag coefficient, and the marketing people sure like to quote their car's drag coefficient figures. But how do we make sense of these figures to determine if they're good or bad? Well, factoring issues like surface roughness and speed, we can generally say that a brick-shaped object has a drag coefficient of 1, while a teardrop shape, which incidentally is the most aerodynamically efficient shape, has a coefficient of only 0.05. Most modern cars have a drag coefficient of between 0.25 and 0.35, with SUVs being a little higher because they obviously have a larger frontal surface area. Now, talking of front-facing surface areas, this is calculated by summing all the surfaces viewed from the front, which means that a Formula 1 car, in fact, has a drag coefficient of between 0.7 and 1, which is the same as a bus. In fact, a Formula 1 car develops so much drag that just by lifting off the throttle at over 200 kilometers an hour creates over 1 G of slowing down force, which is the same as if we slammed on our brakes in a road car. This brings us to our next topic of downforce. The faster the car goes, the more the airflow tries to lift it up due to its shape. Also, if we want to have more grip in the corners, we need to create downforce. What creates downforce, or lift for that matter, is a difference in pressure between the top and the bottom of the car, which is eloquently described by Bernoulli's equation. In basic terms, a fast-moving fluid or air has less pressure than a slow-moving fluid. So, a front or rear wing on a car produces downforce because the airflow moves more quickly across the bottom of the wing than it does over the top. This is achieved by making the wing an aerofoil shape, which forces the airflow to either follow a shorter or a longer path over the shape, which then creates the pressure differential because the airflow traveling the longer distance must speed up. So what about a spoiler? Well, as you guess, a spoiler is not a wing and has a very different aerodynamic function. In fact, a spoiler does exactly what the name suggests. It spoils or obstructs the airflow at a localized position of the car. And the reason why we want to do this is due to the airflow that typically occurs over and under a traditionally shaped car, which has some likeness to a wing. The airflow over the car has to travel faster than under the car, and as a result, a low pressure zone is created, particularly at the rear, which then tries to lift up the car. The spoiler slows down the airflow at this point, which negates the low pressure effect and in turn zeroes the lifting force. And it also aids the stability of the car at high speed. So wings and spoilers are just two aerodynamic aids that assist us with the downforce and drag we experience. But there are so many other aerodynamic aids to discuss, such as splitters, air dams, canards, under trays, side skirts, vortex generators, and diffusers. Now, we don't have time in this segment to discuss them, but the good news is that this means you have so much to look forward to in future episodes. So thanks for watching our introduction into aerodynamics, and we look forward to sharing more topics with you on how things work.